Welcome to the Political Pour Up Podcast.
Grab a drink, pull up a chair. Grab a drink. Since the political pour up. Because we don't need a drink for this.
Hello, and welcome to the Political Pour Up Podcast. I'm Sue.
And I'm Jazz.
Are we missing someone?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are this week.
Oh,
I know. I'm going to miss her this week.
Jen is sick.
Yes. And I know the feeling.
Damn kids. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just without a voice a couple of weeks ago. Luckily, it returned just in time. So we're wishing her well.
Yes.
And hoping that she will be back with us this week.
Yeah.
As we have exciting stuff coming up this week.
Yeah, I hope Jen is feeling better soon because this week we have the Gain Power Idea Awards and we were nominated for Best Podcast.
Yes.
Who is that?
So we hope you all voted, and we will be there in attendance.
The awards are on Wednesday, June 25th. If you're in the DC area, tickets are still available. I'm sure you can pop up on us and have a drink.
Yeah, and celebrate with us if we win.
Yes.
So either way, we're going to have a great time. It'll be very exciting. So I'm super...
lot of awesome leaders in the building, and we're looking forward to it. Did you pick out what you're going to wear?
I think I have an idea, but honestly, this heat wave that's running through the city has me rethinking all of my life choices.
I don't want to wear anything. I don't want to put up on no makeup.
The makeup
I want to do my hair.
I'm going to have to get some more setting spray because I think I ran out of my last one. And I need something that'll keep this from melting off onto my outfit because I'm sure that's what it's going to be.
Like it literally just became summer. Why is it so fucking hot?
It came in like kind of okay, and then it was like punch in the face.
I feel like 3 weeks ago it was like 60 degrees.
It was.
And now it's like hell.
Now it feels like 107, I think.
It's hotter than Satan's toenails.
I'm telling you. I was like, it's cooler than hell. It is literally cooler than hell. Please. Where's the AC? It's broken. Somebody turn it on outside.
I know. It's been unbearable. I think most of the East Coast is going through a heat wave. I know it's hotter in D.C. right now than I think it is in South Carolina. When I looked at my little weather, my Apple weather map, I scrolled. I was like, okay, not South Carolina, not Georgia.
Being cooler.
In triple digits today. And that is not cool.
No.
That is literally not cool.
The antithesis of cool.
So it's warm. So hydrate accordingly if your weather is being impacted by this heat wave and just all summer because, global warming is real.
Yeah.
And we are all, no matter what the season is, feeling the effects of it.
Yeah, for sure. Stronger storms.
Exactly.
The other day,
it's hurricane season.
I was in the house in storm the other day in this area, and I saw my neighbor. I saw it raining sideways because of the wind, and then I saw my neighbor's shingles flying off of their roof. And by the time I had come out afterward, I also saw that it had taken out their fence. So, oh my goodness, this weather has not been.
Yeah, there's some trees down. It was some trees down in Northeast, right off of South Dakota.
Oh, there's a couple. Maybe a couple blocks from it. It took out like parts of two houses that are next to each other. So,
and that was just a run-of-the-mill thunderstorm. That wasn't even a classified hurricane.
I seen that wind pick up. I was like, oh no,
time to go back inside. But yeah, how was your Juneteenth?
Hot.
It was pretty hot.
It's very hot.
And then it had a pretty heavy.
And I have
afternoon storm.
Yeah, the day before Juneteenth, I helped out with at a community school and did a Juneteenth celebration for the students on their last day. And when I tell you, it started off misty and humid, and then it just turned into hell on wheels outside. I thought I was gonna have a heat stroke. It was so warm. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, but I was also just below boiling temperature, I'm pretty sure of it.
Yeah. I think I stayed inside.
Yeah. I was going to say, how was yours?
Most of the day. We were planning for some activities at work, but We ended up staying inside, which it did end up raining. It was nice earlier in the day, but it did end up raining.
Yeah, I was waiting on my Uber as it started.
Torrential rain and storm. So I'm glad I stayed in the house. But the weekend was nice.
Yeah. Stayed in the house this weekend because it was hot.
Well, speaking of hot.
Oh, yeah.
We got something to cool us down this week. Another cocktail. This time, one of my faves, a margarita.
Yay!
And this is...
It's one of my faves. It's a spicy margarita.
I know. This is called...
The Californication.
The Californication. I'm going to say Californication. Californication.
Yeah. I feel like I said
Californication.
Yeah, that sounds weird. Yeah.
It does, but I think that's how you say it.
I think it's supposed to be Californication.
This special spicy margarita has some simple syrup made with Fresno chili peppers and Anaheim chili peppers.
Yes.
Both cities in California. And it's really balanced. I think Anaheim peppers are a little bit more milder than like a jalapeno. I think they likened it to like a poblano pepper. And then the Fresno chili peppers are spicy.
I like a good Fresno chili pepper on stuff.
It's very balanced. And yeah, just infuse the peppers in some simple syrup, make some sour mix.
Yes.
I pureed some watermelon because I had some.
And it's refreshing.
It's nice and summery.
Hydration.
Hydration is key. Watermelon has a lot of water. And then this tequila, it's called Devil's Reserve.
Ooh.
Reserva del Diablo.
I was like, I just put Diablo on
spicy tequila or tequila with spices. It's pretty good. It's a little sweet, but the bottle is cool.
Yeah, it almost looks like a gin bottle.
This is
cool.
This is so cool.
And I don't know who did the artwork on the label, but it's good.
Yeah.
But
I haven't been a Jose fan for a while, but I'm not mad at it. It's tasty.
No, and I think it's actually a pretty good balance for a pepper or like a spicy infused like bottled tequila.
Yeah.
Because sometimes those pepper flavors can read a little off.
Yeah. They taste like jalapeno.
They taste like with no
spice.
heat. Just roasted, heatless peppers. You might as well. It tastes like bell pepper. Like you might as well have given me a bell pepper freaking, what's the name? And nobody wants a bell pepper drink.
But yeah. I'm glad we're drinking margaritas today because, oh, Lord.
Yeah.
This week. I mean, just...
It was needed.
The past couple days in general. But yeah. This week is especially nerve-wracking and stressful because, I mean, are we on the brink of war? Are we
in it?
Are we in war?
Oh,
are we not? Am I gonna bomb Iran? Am I not? I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Nobody knows what I'm gonna do.
I mean,
I don't know if we're in war. Nobody knows if we're in war. We're just out here just
flailing. Just flailing.
YOLO.
Yeah. Although one thing that, because of so much has happened in the last week, especially regarding war, not war, possible World War III, what's happening, I have seen an uptick of things on the internet that sometimes make me laugh. One of which this week that has seemed to be a trend is people, specifically Black people, explaining to Iran that we ain't in this. We didn't have any choice in this. We didn't pick this. This ain't us. And
just make sure that you know.
Like, we just want you to know
right
the
here.
address is 60. People have been cracking up with their posts this week. So I will say that I appreciate the fact that although everything is not a joke, sometimes we do need a moment to be able just to release a little tension,
laugh
have a little
keep
chuckle.
From crying.
Yeah, or going mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I support that. I mean, yes, a little humor helps.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, a lot of things happened over the past week or so that were very much so not laughing matters. I guess we start there in the headlines. So last weekend was the birthday for the Army / military parade /
The creakiest parade heard around
The
the
loudest
world.
carried around the world. I mean, we'll get to that in a second, but also something very tragic and unfortunate happened on that same day, on June 14th.
Yes.
A sitting member of the Minnesota House of Representatives, she's actually a former Speaker of the House, Democratic lawmaker Representative Melissa Hortman, was gunned down in her home along with her husband.
And the dog.
And the dog.
And the dog.
In really sad timeline of events. Also, a senator from Minnesota, Senator John Hoffman, and his wife were also shot by the same man, and they survived those attacks, but they're still in recovery. But this has been termed as a political assassination.
It's called terrorism.
It is domestic terrorism for anyone who, cares to call a thing a thing. A little bit about Representative Hortman. She was a champion for a lot of progressive and democratic initiatives that have been championed in the Minnesota legislature. She was a friend of Governor Tim Walz, who she worked with to get some really monumental legislation passed in Minnesota. They were able to decriminalize cannabis, pass some really great reproductive rights protections after the Dobbs decision came down in 2022.
Much needed.
Also, that picture that they showed of Tim Walz hugging the little kids when he signed that bill for giving them free school lunch. Representative Hortman was really instrumental in getting that through. So she had done so much in her long political career. She was first elected to office in 2004, and she was only 55. Now, I can't really do math, but that means that she was fairly young when she started public service, which is, awesome. She dedicated her life to serving the people of Minnesota and the people of her district, and she will be sorely missed, and her legacy will continue to live on in the legislation that she helped pass that will really benefit the lives of Minnesotans, who are very nice people. I love Minnesota. It gets cold, but Minnesota is where Prince is from. I just know nothing but good people from Minnesota.
my first person that I can think of, and that I think of when I think of Minnesota, Rose from Golden Girls.
Oh my gosh! She's from Olark. Is it Olark or
Olaf? No,
that's the snowman from Frozen.
She's from somewhere. I gotta think of it, but yeah, I love me some Golden Girls, and she was the first person I knew from Minnesota.
No, Saint Olaf.
Saint Olaf.
Yeah.
See, I knew it was Olaf.
Yeah, and, what's been reported about Minnesota politics in general is of course, yes, there's disagreement on policy issues, but as it is in a lot of states, you have your disagreements on policy, but you can still coexist in a civil manner. And I think that, and legislate together and come together on common issues and things that you want to do collectively in a bipartisan way. And I think Minnesota and how they govern there really exemplifies that type of working relationship. So it's unfortunate for it to happen anywhere, but I think Minnesota is a place that really prides himself on being able to acknowledge differences, but also
respect each other. I think
exactly.
They have they have a whole thing called Minnesota Nice.
Right.
It's literally Minnesota Nice.
There's a reason for that. I
mean, you don't get that term arbitrarily.
Yeah.
There's usually a reason for it. And most of them are nice.
Yeah.
So. At least the overall feeling that you get. So, but it was very sad to have that happen. As unfortunate as it was for the things that happened, thank goodness they were able to get him before he got to the rest of the people that he had on his very long list.
Yes. All Democrats.
Yeah.
Or abortion
providers
or people who have vocally supported abortion access or reproductive rights in general. Mackenzie Scott was on the list. Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, who basically is the biggest philanthropist. She's given a lot of her wealth to women, especially women's causes. And also, he had notes about where No Kings protests were being held.
I heard.
And information about that. So some are led to believe that that means that he was going to target some protests, which, were peaceful protests, just, coming out against what we are seeing right now within the federal government, but peaceful and, also not in places where you would necessarily go through like a metal detector. It's like anyone in the crowd could
outside
be, so it's a safe space, or what was understood to be a safe space. So I'm glad that he was not able to
do that because
get any further.
Was it in Virginia, I believe, where someone was shot at a protest?
Utah,
Salt
Lake City.
Yeah, it was actually someone who showed up to the protest with a rifle and was threatening people. And one of the peacekeepers of the protest pulled out their firearm and shot the person with the rifle that was threatening people.
In Utah?
I think so.
Okay.
And then also, I think a bystander also got shot. And they ended up passing away. But now the person who brought the rifle, he's now, I believe, charged with their murder. Because he's the reason why.
Good.
All of that happened, and that's what we like to see.
Wonderful. Well, speaking of charges, the suspect in custody now for the shootings in Minnesota.
Thank the Lord they caught him.
They caught him in the woods somewhere in Minnesota, not far away from where he lived or where he committed the attacks, which is not too far outside of Minneapolis. And he's being charged with second-degree murder in Minnesota. And what I've heard online, a lot of people are like, why is this not first degree? It's obviously premeditated, and it's obviously a hate crime or a politically motivated crime. And, he had all of these things that would elevate it to first-degree murder. So what I've learned about Minnesota criminal law, because every state has their own criminal code, even if they're very similar. Every state has their own criminal code, and apparently in Minnesota, you can only be initially charged with second-degree murder, and then the grand jury decides whether it deserves to be elevated to first degree. So that's why.
Helpful to know.
So I don't think that the prosecution is like taking it lightly on him. I hope that he is brought to justice, at least for the
heinous crimes that he committed.
Yeah, and I know this also has led lawmakers, especially members of Congress and even state lawmakers around the country, to question their own safety in their own communities, because it's not just Democratic lawmakers, Republicans too. I think one Republican congressman was like run off the road by somebody.
Oh, I think I heard.
Everyone is kind of nervous about the polarization that
has happened,
exists, and it's kind of easy to determine where and when public figures will be certain places. So it's not like they can just kind of go into hiding. They are servants of the people. They ought to be out in the community, and so that exposes them to.
Yeah, and as you see, even in your own home, some things are just public record.
Exactly.
Like where you pay taxes, where you live, stuff like that. So
yeah. So yeah. Other things that happened on June 14th. So we know there were several. More than 2,000 No Kings protests on June 14th, and it was a wildly successful turnout, I think, over there. And of course, it's hard to quantify when you have over 2,000 different protests, but they're estimating between 4 and 6 million people turned out. So they're just saying 5 million because that's like in the middle. But I think that was a good turnout. You know who did not have 5 people at their planned events?
It was terrible.
Unfortunately, especially for the Army. It's like, okay,
that was so
definitely
poorly
support
done.
our
a
troops,
disgrace
definitely support
it's a disgrace to our military to have that happen.
our military, but goddamn, like
It was disgraceful for our military. It actually was quite not. It wasn't a good look.
So the parade that happened on the same day as the No Kings protest had less than expected turnout. Now, if you consult the actual pictures from the event, I think there were some redacted or some doctored pictures.
Yeah, they had some
exist,
creative
like,
angles and some AI popping off.
Right,
But from
it's
the
real
live
easy
footage
to
that you could see, from the estimates I saw.
Yeah, they claim that there were over 250,000 patriots showed up.
Well, as a person who lives in DC and also is used to work in the hotel industry, the tourism doesn't reflect the fact that there were 250,000 extra people in the city, and that they would have stayed, or that even based on the amount of people at protests elsewhere, that they would have even been down there. So I don't know who pulled that number out of what hat. Or out of what behind, but that was not it. Yes. And it seemed, from what I saw, it was actually like, I can't remember where I saw it, but it was, I think it was like scrolling through Instagram this week. And it was like the irony that an entire administration that relies on women for help, but doesn't want them to do anything, through the worst celebration in history with even the crappiest cake we've ever seen. And I don't know if you saw the cake.
Have made a better
cake looked like it was made by a third grader, and I know because I decorated cakes in high school that look way better than that.
You know who makes better cakes?
Me.
Which, because they do make good cakes. Sam's Club would have made a better cake.
Yes.
Sam's Club.
Costco would have decorated the hell out of that. Way better than that. But it was sad.
Like, if that's what you were going to give America, you could have just gotten a cheap cake.
Right,
or that.
Just don't go for cake.
Don't they have a culinary or a pastry, a confection chef in the White House that can make something?
I'm sure they have a whole team.
It's like,
it was sad. It was sad to see, and they were like, there was no music, there were creaky tanks, that's all you heard. Also, I don't know if anybody... It was
cricket silence or
I don't know if anybody thought about that when it was having tanks on asphalt, and what the acoustics of that would sound like, along with everything else. But, you know, he got his birthday party.
Well, he didn't even stay awake for the whole parade.
They had him awake for anything.
They had him on camera, damn near falling asleep. And then he tried to hold Melania's hand. She wouldn't even give him the thumb.
Didn't she mug him? I could have sworn in the picture.
I'm sure.
She had the face on, but she was like, she rolled her eyes with the full mug. I was like, that's how the rest of us feel.
I agreed to show up, but the only condition was that you do not touch me.
Do not touch me.
So, yeah, that turned out exactly how everyone thought it would.
What a waste of space.
It was a waste of money. It was a waste of resources and armed personnel who marched through the 6,000 soldiers.
Who spent their time training not to be out here just doing that.
It rained. It was funny. I think a writer for The Independent likened the parade to a small town's or a medium-sized town's July 4th celebration. There were families, picnics, bad weather, and small crowds.
Yeah.
And were there fireworks? I mean, fireworks would have made it a little better. I didn't watch or participate. So I know that Fox News only kept their camera fixed on the main stage. They didn't pan to the audience
what a waste of time.
To show that no one was there, the empty bleachers. So
yeah, you could look at the bleacher pictures and tell nobody was there. And not to mention, they said the logistics were so bad that the people that did come couldn't even figure out the correct entrance to get in.
I saw something that was like the parade, the military parade went so bad that Trump had to go and drop bombs on a country.
It was awful.
To prove that we have the military strength that we claim that we do. He did that.
He is he's just so gullible. It's so sad to watch. It's really so sad to watch somebody be so gullible to just be pulled in any type of direction from whoever speaks to them at any given point.
Yeah.
And the irony is that now he's saying that the people that he recommended and nominated don't know what the hell they talking about.
So yeah, we, or the United States, on
Saturday night.
On Saturday.
At 8 p.m. in a summer night.
You know, it's funny because I was off of social media and my phone most of Saturday, and at like 2 a.m. I was I got in the bed and just opened Instagram for a second just to see, like, whatever, one last thing before I go to sleep. And that's the first thing I saw. I was like, what the fuck?
I think I had dozed off and woke up and saw
and
that
woke
shit.
up in America's at war.
Entire.
Yeah. So on June 21st, the U.S. Sent B-2 stealth bomber jets to drop
bunker
buster bombs, which apparently only the United States has, on 3 sites in Iran that they claim, that U.S. intelligence apparently claims house nuclear weapons / concepts of weapons, because I think everyone is in agreement that they don't have the actual weapons, but they have the ingredients for nuclear bombs. So
listen, I will say I saw a freaking mashup earlier this week, yesterday I think, and it was like, these are all the times over the last 30 plus years that BB has alleged that they either are like right around the corner from a nuke, or next week, or next month, or in the coming months. Like, it's always like it's right around the corner. And he's tried to get everyone to go to war with him. And he finally found his mark.
I mean,
I just was like, this is the longest it's about to be here that I've ever heard.
So we dropped these bunker buster bombs because we think the U.S. intelligence believes that Iran is storing their uranium and other things to make nuclear weapons underground, like under these mountains that are outside of Tehran, the capital of Iran. So the United States dropped bombs on these 3 sites, most specifically Fordo, which is assumed to be housing the biggest
the
enriched uranium that Iran is suspected to possess. And that happened when in 48 hours prior, I feel like, was it Thursday, or like the president definitely said it was going to take him about 2 weeks to decide if he wanted to enter the war between Israel and Iran. On June 13th, Israel launched its first strikes on Iran and claimed them to be very successful. They took out some Iranian military leaders and caused significant damage to their strategic weapons site. Our president also was on the record as saying, yes, this was such a successful...
Well, before he said, I didn't know anything about this.
Well, that part.
That was the first part. I don't know anything about this. Then after it happened, yeah, it was successful.
I mean, you could believe that knowing that he doesn't read his intelligence briefings, but okay, go on. But yeah, so after that, I think, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu and a lot of pro-Israel proponents in Congress and in policy have tried to get Trump to agree to help Israel out with another of their wars. And Iran was like, you better not.
I just don't understand. Like, leave people alone. Sometimes, like, they entered an agreement before, you tore it up. Obama was like, look, we put in an agreement. And they agreed to it. And then it just got torn up to pieces.
And it was claimed that there was going to be a much better deal.
Now they're really just hoping, and I heard some pundits talking about this earlier. They were like, what we really thought he was going to do was just, pretty much just take the nuclear deal that Obama had done and just kind of pretty much restate that and slap his name on it like he does with most other things and just fix it. But even that he couldn't manage to do, and managed to take this into a whole nother layer of stuff. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of get it, but just stop.
I really don't understand.
Stop.
And the situation is so complex that it requires like a real in-depth, like deep dive into the history of both countries and their conflicts. They've been in conflict for decades. And for all the problems that Iran did have pre this attack by the United States, I think that has just exacerbated them. As of this recording, apparently the White House is announcing that there is a ceasefire between Iran and Israel at this moment. The best ceasefire that was ever made or ever created, ever agreed to, I think.
That's because this fool is
complete and total ceasefire.
He's trying to float the idea of getting a Nobel Peace Prize, and he wants it
oh
so
my
bad.
God, let it go.
No, I mean, Obama got one.
But
so he's not going to let it go.
You can't. Say that thing you said again about fucking for virginity.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
Bombing
for peace. It's like fucking for virginity. It's not. It does not equate. No. It just does not equate.
So, but as to our knowledge at this point, I think Israel has definitely not agreed to a ceasefire. I'm not sure if the top officials of Iran have, or if it's just someone who is.
Yeah, what I heard first was that I think Iran was like, no, we didn't hear about any of this. We haven't agreed to anything. And I think the last thing I saw right before we started recording was that I think Iran may have, but like you said, we don't know there weren't really many details. And what I will say is that if we have learned anything, it's the same way that when they've told us a couple of times in the last week and a half that they don't know what's happening or not planning to do this, and then they do it anyway. And if we've learned nothing, i.e. the entire campaign Project 2025, we'll come back there later. I'm just saying, we've also witnessed that every ceasefire that has been brokered with Israel and whomever has been reneged on
how many
by Israel.
Ceasefires?
They said they were ceasefire as they continued to bomb people. I don't even know how those two things go together. But what I did think was interesting, that I saw mentioned about the very strategic attacks of like the people that run the nuclear programs and like the government officials. Like they show video footage of like some of the attack sites where like a drone went into the side of an apartment and blew up just the apartment. And somebody was like, it's very interesting how precise and how skilled these targets are, that you can get one person in their apartment building while they're in their living room. But you had to flatten whole regions of Gaza, saying that you're looking for these people. I would imagine that the same technology exists. And when I heard that, I was like, I can't say that you are wrong. I cannot say that that is incorrect by any means of logic and or just common thought.
Yeah. Or, it's hard for an accident to specifically hit a moving aid vehicle.
Yeah.
As they are trying to bring food and supplies to civilians.
And I really wonder what's been happening, because it's already hard enough to find out what's been going on because there are no journalists allowed in that area. But since this whole attacking of Iran thing, I think the same time that they attacked Iran was right around the same time that they cut all the internet and power, I think, to Gaza. Mm-hmm. So who knows, like, the things that have been happening, which is so sad. There's so many atrocities, and people are people no matter where they are and should be treated as such. Like, I don't understand the vitriol and hate for, like, infants and stuff like that. So it's something I don't think I'll ever wrap my mind around, because it seems like a sickness.
Oh, because you have a
decent
heart,
yeah,
and you
decent
care
person
about humanity. But Apparently, the ceasefire deal that may or may not exist at the moment is claimed to cease all fighting in the region forever.
Yeah,
for
people were laughing at
infinity, like
and beyond, and beyond.
Okay,
Why stop at infinity? Why stop at infinity? If we're just gonna start saying outlandish stuff, why stop at infinity? Infinity plus one. Like,
I'm just trying to wrap my head around the kind of lies that are being told. Like there's no way to even predict that, even if that was the case, given the fact that, as I just mentioned, like there has always been conflict between these two countries, and there's, it's still a very volatile situation. We didn't do anything but make it worse. Yeah. To think that we went in and
anytime you bomb a country unprovoked, it's probably not good. Like when you just start going
their nuclear capabilities, we don't know what happened with them because we can't see. They were underground. Oh. So to call this the attack a monumental success is a little premature, considering we have no idea. Well, I mean, yes, but
does that ever stop any of they're like a teenage
to eliminate all fighting between the countries forever. Now that's a bit far-fetched. I'm sorry. That's where dumb. I feel like some of us should. That's living in fantasy land.
I mean, people literally actually like. People that were discussing it earlier, and I have watched a couple different news shows that were talking about it. Like even former national security people, even the people that were under Trump his first term, it's like this is actually laughable. Like if it wasn't such a sad thought, it would actually make you chuckle a little bit because that this doesn't make any sense. It's just it hasn't been the history of the region.
It's just something to say.
It is always something to say, and maybe just maybe. Every time that there's someone who's, some people, I haven't lived in these places. I can't speak about how it has been for people who have lived there. But it does seem to be a trend that with certain places are kind of stable, maybe not as perfect as we would like them, that somehow we go from places that are functioning cities with governments, even if they're elected, or whatever, then it's like, you take them out, and then everything's just chaos all over again. And have we learned nothing? Mm-mm. Have we learned nothing?
Well, it might surprise you that I'm sure a lot of people in MAGA would agree with you because a lot of his supporters
people's heads are turning around. They were spinning this week.
Do you know who we met with before?
Steve Bannon.
He met with Steve Bannon because he is
anti-war.
He is very much so anti getting involved in attacking Iran. And they were like, "Oh, he met with Steve Bannon, so he must be."
They were like,
"He must be leaning."
Somebody sensible adult in there. He's
First
the last
of all,
person
if
to
Steve
talk
Bannon
to
is the sensible adult in the room,
he's the most sensible one that you got now. Man, Tulsi Gabbard was the sensible voice in the room for this one, and that is a far-fetched thing to even put your hand on.
I'm not convinced on that either.
I mean, she literally was like, there is no imminent threat at all.
Well, she said that in March, and then most recently she said,
only took it back.
The media misunderstood my word. It's hard to misunderstand something that is in writing.
And that is
an opening statement before a committee in Congress, and
it's on the record,
on the record, and those remarks actually have to be written down. So to think that we just mistook it from context and in just a casual conversation is one thing, but it was literally basically a speech where she basically alluded that there was no U.S. intelligence that was available at the time to confirm that Iran had nuclear weapons. And now that seems not to be the case. But MAGA doesn't care. MAGA's like, you go to Iran and we gonna have a issue with you.
Well,
and so we'll see what happens now.
For this,
Marjorie Taylor Greene came out a week ago and was like, no, if we attack Iran, then it's gonna be a problem. So is this gonna be the MAGA civil war that?
I mean, they're so excited to get one going. I guess now they got their own.
Well, they keep talking about civil war, but I'm not surprised. I am not surprised.
It's like a dog chasing its tail. You don't even know which way is up.
So, but yeah, you know who else isn't jumping for joy about what the president decided to do without
the rest of the Middle East, like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and
oh yeah, them too. I mean, yeah, that. But Congress, who actually holds the power to declare war, and these are construed widely as acts of war, and Congress, you need approval from Congress according to the Constitution.
Yeah, I mean, you don't just get to. Like, we should not be letting a senile old person roll over in the middle of the evening and decide to bomb things. I just don't think that's a good way to run the country. It's just somebody wakes up on a whim and just goes, you know what? Give me a Big Mac and a Diet Coke. And also, while you at it, get a couple B2s.
And make it stealth.
Yeah. Make it stealth. Like, come on. Like, really. Okay. It's a mess.
So, according to the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11, only Congress has the authority to declare war. And I think there have been proposals in both the House and the Senate to assess whether the president acted
illegally.
That's laughable now. It's like,
laws, what are those?
We don't know those.
I'm just going to say it like,
no laws, just
possibly
vibes.
Have thought that somebody who didn't follow laws as a civilian would get into public office and would still not follow laws.
But we have a resolution.
Think it doesn't apply to them. I tell you what, I certainly hope that certain people in leadership in the Democratic Party might just reorganize and something, because people are hot. There's some people who are. Yes, we
are. It's 100 degrees outside.
No, I mean, they're steaming under the collar even more. Yeah. They're steaming on the outside and steaming on the inside.
No, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it has real implications for American lives, not just those who are abroad, who are also at heightened threats. Whether they're in the Middle East or not, or just, military bases across the globe. But
they act
here
like people
at
don't
home,
live places.
Right. It's Americans, and, especially our troops, those who are deployed and who are in the region. I mean, they carried out, or Iran took out a strike against one of our naval or our military bases in Qatar. I hear people say both.
I guess it's like a tomato type of situation.
Qatar.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, for Americans, even here on our own soil, like, there's the possibility for terrorist attacks. I think we all like those of us, especially those of us who lived through 9/11, especially in like the DC and the New York area, kind of know what that feels like and what that heightened sense of alertness feels like at any moment. And that's a real possibility now that we like it's like ridiculous for any common sense thinking individual to think that you can bomb a whole country's,
unprovoked. It'd been one thing if they might have done something initially, but
to us specifically.
Yeah, you can't just
like this was between Israel and Iran, and they were handling it. Israel wanted us to be involved, and that's fair for them to right. And now here we are, and we are more at risk for it. There's a risk that more troops can be deployed to the region. That means that. There is still a possibility that, they could institute a draft if they need additional soldiers. I mean that
how are they going to keep people on the streets of LA and over there? They're probably going to need more.
Yeah. So that, and then, the possibility of terrorist attacks, which Iran has already alluded to in a comment made that there are sleeper cells in the United States that can be used for terrorist attack. And sleeper cell is basically a person or someone who is used as an intelligence agent in the United States
or in another country that's
or in another country, but
other home country.
Yeah,
sort of.
So they can carry out attacks at the direction of the government, whatever government they serve. So that is scary.
Yeah, that's something that didn't need to happen. Not to mention, sometimes without the actual sleeper cell situation, sometimes, like we saw in the aftermath of 9/11, when adverse things are being taken toward, or what people review as like an adverse reaction or greater than reaction that actually starts harming people that are innocent people, it actually starts upsetting people and maybe radicalizing them in ways, and that's the last thing you want. So I don't know why.
A radicalized Iran?
Listen.
That can't be an issue. I mean, why?
Listen. And it was so interesting. I saw someone talking about how some of the justifications about the issues with Iran are about human rights violations and about the rights of women.
How ironic.
And somebody was like, is this really... I don't think this is really...
Pot. Meat kettle.
I don't think this is
you
really...
guys are going to be best friends.
The argument you're trying to have with the current things happening. Like, have you looked in the mirror lately? That's America Girl. Have you looked in the mirror lately? Was what it was given.
Yeah.
A mess.
So, yeah, that is an ongoing situation. I'm sure there'll be much more to revisit next week and the week after that. And
who knows?
After that, unfortunately, it's not going to end soon, as the administration apparently just wants it to end. They're like, yeah, we bombed them, and what?
They have a whole name for it already. They want to call it the 12-Day War.
Okay. It's almost like this might be a distraction or, trying to take the attention away from things that are happening here at home. Like, I don't know if there was like a big, horrible, ugly, disgusting bill that was going through Congress right now that will literally make Americans' lives
horrid.
much worse off.
I can't find a positive
thing. Is there something like that going on?
Oh, yeah. It's called...
Do tell.
They call it the Big Beautiful Bill.
Which is literally their... So...
But we call it a big bunch of bullshit.
It is a big bunch of bullshit. But the fact that its name, like all bills, like it's H.R. 1, the reconciliation bill that is moving through Congress at the moment, it's literally called One Big Beautiful Bill Act. That is the dumbest name.
I'm telling you. It's a dumbass name.
It's a dumb name.
It's just dumb.
It's a horrible name. Congress is considering the nation's budget in a process called reconciliation. So reconciliation basically is a process that allows the bill to go through without needing a 60-vote majority in the Senate, which basically bypasses the filibuster. You would need 60 votes to end a filibuster for a bill. So reconciliation allows the Senate to pass the bill on a simple majority, so meaning that the Republicans, no more than 3 Republicans can vote nay on the bill. The House version of the bill is pretty crazy. It's pretty horrible. Yeah. And the Senate, there are several senators who are not all the way on board yet with the things that the House put in the bill and passed by a very slim margin. I think there was like 1 vote.
I think so.
And yeah, so
foolishness.
It's not the best place to be in, especially for a party that controls the House, the Senate, and I won't say all 3 branches of government, but we know that is also the case considering the current makeup of the Supreme Court. But controlling the White House, the Senate, and
I'll never forget
and the
Mitch
House of
McConnell for that. I'll never forget.
Oh, don't let anyone
I'll never
forget.
It's
He's trying to die quietly, or
he already turned
retire
purple.
Quietly.
He came out with blue hands.
We remember.
Purple lips, fell over.
Especially with all of the horrible decisions that are coming out of this Supreme Court thus far. There's still more to come. So after that all happens, we'll do a recap of what happened at this.
That's how we got Kavanaugh.
And Gorsuch and
ACB. So you will not give her an acronym.
I'm sorry. It's just easier.
You will not acronym her.
I don't feel like spending that much time on her name.
There's one acronym. It's RBG. We will not acronym anyone else.
Oh, I said KBJ.
Oh, that is true.
So yeah,
it's a big, beautiful
bunch of bull.
So what else is in HR1 that we might want to tell people about? This is like we said, a whole bunch of crap.
So HR1 is basically a extension and a expansion of the 2017 Trump tax cuts that pretty much fucked up everybody's tax return.
That we're still under.
Right,
There was no Biden tax plan.
Those are set.
Same one.
Those are set to expire, I think, next year. So they gotta put them back in place. And this time they are doing it in style, making cuts to historic cuts, mind you, not just, regular run of the mill. Oh, let's try to get the deficit down. Cuts, historic cuts to Medicaid, historic cuts to SNAP, historic cuts to clean energy, tax credits that a lot of people have gotten used to and rely on to make their everyday comings and goings more energy efficient and cleaner for the environment.
I think also in that bill is that they're trying to put in there the legalization of selling off federally protected lands.
That is also one of the things.
So sounds so awesome.
You
can go to Yellowstone by BP.
Now, why would you need why would you need to cut things like Medicaid, which millions of Americans rely on for their health care, or make cuts to SNAP, which millions of Americans rely on for consistent food to feed their families.
Money for food.
And
any kind of food that
why would you need to, if that wasn't bad enough, which it is, why would you need to sell off our nation's most treasured land? Why would you need to do that? Could it be because you are trying to pass through the most intense tax cuts for wealthy individuals, the top 1%, the richest, wealthy, not even if you're just rich, we're not talking about you. We are talking about the wealthiest Americans getting a massive tax break, and the rest of us are going to be paying for it.
Just like the last one.
Yes.
In the words of
but worse.
DJ Khaled.
As if
another one.
It could get worse.
Another one. That is what this is going to. It's cuts. Another one.
So that's what we're looking at. And right now the bill is in the Senate. It is going through hearings, just like it did in the House. Committees are trying to decide what provisions in the House bill they want to keep and which ones that need to go, because the House bill and the Senate bill have to be the same in order for them to become law. And in the Senate, what also has to happen is that all of the provisions in the bill that was passed by the House have to be considered through the Byrd rule. They call it a Byrd bath. How cute. There's nothing cute about this shit. But
such a clever name.
Right. It sounds really cute. No, fuck that. The provisions in the bill, in order to pass the Byrd rule, they have to serve as specifically budgetary provisions. If they are something like a policy goal or something that has nothing to do with the budget, they can be eliminated by the Senate parliamentarian. And that person who's not an elected leader, and they tend to be I think they're required to be bipartisan, and they just show up and they do their job. So the parliamentarian has already ruled that several things in the House bill need to be scrapped because they do not comply with the Byrd rule. That includes, there's a provision that said that federal courts do not have authority to carry out injunctive or preliminary injunctions or restraining orders against the federal government, basically giving the administrative carte blanche
more than they already have
to just do whatever they want and to disregard any federal court order, other than making the judiciary essentially obsolete as it concerns the executive branch, which is a complete abuse of our checks and balances.
And wasn't it, if I'm not mistaken, isn't also a portion of that portion that says that now people can't sue the government without having to like cover the cost of what it would be? So it kind of renders it like ineffective for people to be able to sue the government for grievances or violation of, I guess, whatever rights we might still have.
Yeah, I think that was in there. I'm not certain if that was cut by the parliamentarian. It sounds like it should be. Yeah, I can't, off the top of my head, identify any budgetary justifications for that.
They also rejected the language in the bill that would have exempted certain infrastructure projects from judicial review under the National Environmental Policy Act, which sounds absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
That's why
was that in there in the first place? I'm sure you're wondering.
Why do you need to be exempt from review?
Exactly.
That sounds like somebody who plans on doing something wrong that doesn't want to be kept accountable.
And they had something in there that completely eliminated the funding for the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which basically protects everyone who buys shit in our economy.
Scammed and getting your money ran off with.
I mean, basically, yes.
Now,
they just eliminated all that funding.
They already don't. I mean, and we're not. We'll have to save the cuts to some
now.
Other
Why
things
would the administration want to get rid of a bureau that protects from fraud? Also, the horrible cuts to SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which
it's pretty much food stamps.
Food stamps, yes. But it has a fancy name. But yeah, so apparently those provisions did not pass the Byrd bath test.
Parliamentarian was like, not this, not that. Take this out.
So we'll see what else also gets cut in that process. But while that's going on, as I mentioned, committees are considering their own versions of the bill to either include what the House passed or to change it or tweak it, eliminate it, what have you. So there are a lot of things in the House bill that are just really kind of fucked up. Like,
the whole bill is fucked up.
I mean, for education, they are proposing in the House bill basically a nationwide voucher program for private K through 12 school vouchers, which I know a lot of people feel certain ways about at the state level, but basically the national program would allow people to make donations to these entities that then give out school vouchers for private school attendance. So for people who attend private school or want to attend private school, they would get these vouchers. But the fucked up part is that these tax credits would basically be a dollar for dollar tax credit or tax refund for the wealthiest individuals who put into these programs. You know, when you donate money and you get you write it off on your taxes, they basically are like, don't even tell us about it unless it is over a couple $100. It's not going to help you. But if you donate millions of dollars to go directly to these private school vouchers, and these private schools are often religious institutions that
Or started as
should
segregationist
not.
academies.
Yes, because they were the only places where white people could basically deny entry for black students. Those places should not be receiving government funding. But now they want to essentially give government money to these private schools to fund the tuition for the kids that already go to the private schools.
Yep.
That already go there. It's not going to new kids.
And it's definitely not going to poor kids.
If most of the people who are going to these private schools, that one already exists. It's not like you're going out and putting up all these new private schools in the next 2 years or so, and that would make up for the lack of education in the public schools that is now being defunded. Religious institutions have been known to deny entry based on a lot of things, including race, sex, or sexual orientation,
and
or gender identity, economic status, whatever they want to do. So that is all being paid for by billionaires, and they're getting the money right back in their pocket. So it's like
it's circular.
It's like
cyclical.
Cyclical. So that's in the bill.
Well, also with the education portion, one thing they put into that bill will require only public school students would have to take the military assessment test, like while they were in high school. And it's only for kids that go to public schools. So that way they can kind of fund the public school and military pipeline a little more efficiently.
Well, that would only really matter if we were like on the brink of war, which I mean, now we have a ceasefire forever. So
I mean, they've already
no need to worry about that.
They've already put people into slavery. From what I've read, from quite a few people that they've disappeared off the streets.
You need to stop reading.
I be reading. But yeah, quite a few.
Well, I read.
Quite a few people that they've disappeared off the streets in the immigration situation are being held in detention centers where they're forced to do hard labor and work for $1 a day. So most of these people have to work like 5 days a week in order to save up enough money for one call, which is about $5. But they're literally kidnapping people off of the street who had jobs and making them work for free, in essence, for $1 a day, which is slavery.
Wow. In addition to cuts to education, there are also major cuts to our healthcare system, our public healthcare system, to the extent that it exists in this country.
You can't take no more.
They're cutting funding to Medicaid, penalizing states that have expanded Medicaid. And the House bill makes significant cuts to the Affordable Care Act, or changes to the Affordable Care Act, that would lead to 16 million people losing their coverage. And the Affordable Care Act, if you need a little refresher, is basically Obamacare, ACA. Those are all can be used interchangeably, but basically it expanded healthcare access for millions and millions of people who were not able to obtain it through their employers, like restaurant workers and service industry workers, that as like I was during the time that the ACA was passed. It's significant for a lot of people who are in school, or a lot of younger people that are off of their parents' insurance, and also the ACA extended coverage for children to 26 years old. After you turn 26 and you have to find your own health insurance, it made it much easier to do so if you did not have a full-time job that was able to, and made it a little bit more affordable. It's still a pretty big bill, but at the same time, before the ACA, it was damn near impossible to get your own insurance. Like,
hell yeah.
And it was even more impossible to actually afford it every month if you did not have steady income. So the House bill makes cuts to the ACA that would lead to 16 million people losing their coverage, and also significant cuts to Medicaid, including work requirements that have been tested in several states and have proved not to work, and a lot of just bureaucratic red tape that they're trying to enact on Medicaid recipients in order for them to just get so bogged down by the system that they're like, you know what, fuck it, I don't even need, I hope I don't get sick. If I do, I'll just go to, wherever. But an estimated 8.7 million fewer people would be enrolled in Medicaid on an annual basis if the House passed bill provisions are accepted by the Senate. This would be 1 in 10 Medicaid enrollees.
Which is crazy.
And these are people on Medicaid specifically are more economically disadvantaged.
Many of whom already work.
And they work. That's the thing.
New analysis finds that more than 51,000 Americans will die as a result of this bill's Medicaid cuts.
Die!
Yeah, nothing like dead Americans for no reason other than to
for a billion, no,
to give billionaires tax
there's
cuts.
A reason.
Yeah, so that just doesn't sound like something we should be aiming toward.
And if that wasn't bad enough, which it is, but it wouldn't just eliminate healthcare or make it effectively inaccessible for millions of Medicaid recipients, but it will make everybody else's healthcare more expensive because
less people are paying into the system. And Medicaid isn't paying into the system, which actually subsidizes a lot of hospitals. So it's very important that everybody kind of pays attention.
And, those Americans who do have healthcare through the ACA, their premiums are, if the House version of the bill goes through, their premiums are expected to rise for tens of millions of Americans. Not just rise, more than double.
People are already going bankrupt from healthcare,
right?
So
yeah, it's just an overall bad
bill
for everyone.
It's bad. It's nothing beautiful or remotely even positive in this bunch of mess.
Yeah, and since we're on the topic of healthcare, they couldn't make a bill without cutting reproductive rights in some way, shape, or form. They had to slide it in there some way in both the House and Senate versions of the bill. Is a provision that would effectively ban those plans under the Affordable Care Act from covering abortion in states that required to be funded through their state's marketplace. So if your state has a law that says that, hey, if you offer health insurance to the ACA, you have to provide abortion coverage. Now, the Hyde Amendment is a federal law that prohibits any federal funds from being used for abortion. So abortion funding is not available to Medicaid recipients.
Never has been.
And as long as the Hyde Amendment continues to be included in every budget bill, including this one, that essentially prohibits the government from spending federal funds on abortion. So we're not even talking about Medicaid at this point. We're talking about pretty much the private insurance plans that you get through the Affordable Care Act. And the bill punishes insurers that cover abortion by stripping away crucial cost-sharing reduction payments that make ACA plans more affordable. So right now, more than 25 states require or permit abortion coverage under their ACA plans, and the bill would get rid of the benefits to insurers to make that coverage a reality for those who you never know when you might need an abortion. Also, in the House version of the bill are efforts to completely defund Planned Parenthood. And as I said, no federal funds go to abortion services anywhere in the country.
They have not, which means your tax dollars
unless the only way that Medicaid will fund an abortion is if it's a life-saving procedure for the pregnant individual. But any other case outside of that very narrow exception, no federal funding. But Republicans are still obsessed with Planned Parenthood getting Medicaid funding, and so they're basically trying to take away the funding for the service, the essential reproductive and women's health care services that Planned Parenthood does provide, meaning pap smears, cancer screenings,
birth control,
STD testing.
Oh, wow.
Jinx. UTI.
Diagnosis and treatment. Even offering just
anything that has to do with your reproductive organs.
Or if by chance you feel like you not feel like yourself, or you felt a lump somewhere, they also do cancer screenings, as we said. So
yes. Or your reproductive organs, because men go to Planned Parenthood for services too. It is less common, but they do provide vital, essential, needed healthcare services in the communities that Planned Parenthood clinics exist, in addition to the abortion services that they provide. And currently, if you have Medicaid, you can go there and get whatever you need outside of an abortion, including birth control, like Jasmine said. But they just don't like anyone going to Planned Parenthood for any reason. And so they want to eliminate all of the funding to Planned Parenthood, because it all somehow ends up in an abortion. If it would be bad enough if you were lowering the tax for some of the wealthiest individuals.
They don't need it.
Who don't need tax cuts. We've already
have enough.
The top-down economic strategy does not work. They don't use the money that they get back in tax breaks to produce more jobs or
pay people better
more.
Wages or living wages, or
it goes right in their pocket. Safety. So that theory is out the window. But they don't care. They are trying to
widen the wealth gap so people don't have a choice, and then you're forced to work for pays.
There's a lot that will still be determined for the bill as it goes through the Senate. I think there was some urgency from the White House to pass this by July 4th. I don't know if he was planning on throwing another birthday party. America's birthday.
More tanks in streets.
But it's very unlikely that a July 4th final vote that would pass this bill through and make it into law, because there's a lot that still needs to be reconciled between the House version and the Senate version. And I don't think that Senate Republicans have the numbers at this point.
Please, now they're turning on each other.
Yeah, it's like
they talk about primarying people and everything.
So that is going to be a major endeavor over the next few weeks. Couple weeks, maybe months, could be years, Who knows at this point? Summer, spring, September, fall. So we'll see. If you, by some miracle of circumstance, are not affected by anything in this bill, you will undoubtedly know somebody who will be, and your life will be,
you will be affected.
You will be affected. Either your employees will be affected, your family members will be affected,
or yourself. Your insurance might go up. The fact that more people can't afford food and things like that, when wealth disparities happen, crime goes up.
I mean, that's never good for the economy.
I can tell you all of the things that have been happening, not one of them has been good for the economy thus far.
Yeah. For all of the multi-billionaires who just want more and more and more, that's just a recipe for disaster. Like, there's nothing good that can come out of it. Like,
not at all.
Like, read a book, watch a
documentary,
watch a motion picture, watch the Hunger Games. I don't know.
I mean, literally anything, you can probably find a parallel in it to be like, listen, this bad.
In every scenario, there has never been Les Mis. Like, in every scenario, there has never been a situation where this boded well. But we, the people, are not left powerless in this conundrum that we find ourselves in. Currently, we can do something. Right now, what you can do is call your senator and oppose all the bullshit that is in HR1. Just find something in there that you specifically oppose, or that you feel most passionately about. If you're a Medicaid recipient, if you're someone who has a disability, who is who knows someone who is elderly,
or
in
taking
your
care
life,
of someone who's elderly or has a disability,
right?
Which is happening to a lot of us now at this point in
Because
time of
you
life.
will be affected if you are someone who has health insurance. If you are someone who doesn't want to see your tax bill rise, as those who have infinitely more money than you
pay
their tax bill lowers. You know how pissed off people get when they get their tax. It's like, maybe there's a possibility I might not owe this year. No, you're going to owe.
Yeah.
And if this bill goes through, you're going to owe more. And guess who's not going to owe more?
Nobody in that top percent.
And people like Elon and Jeff Bezos and all of the most wealthiest individuals. We know,
the Peter Thiels of the world.
Yes, so you can call your senator and oppose the provisions in the reconciliation bill that you feel should be eliminated or adjusted. And the more opposition they have to the things that are the most horrible in the bill that just cannot stand, then the better chance we all have as Americans to get somewhat closer to a budget that reflects our true values and the things that actually make America great.
Yeah, and call like your life depended on it, because the very small group of people that have kind of overtaken America's politics, who have pushed it so far to the fringe, they call like their life depend on it. And that's all people get all day. So when they don't get calls from other sides, they just assume like, oh, we're just a piece of people that harass us. So,
you know,
I'm
what's
not saying
funny?
harass folks, but I'm just saying make your voices heard.
Yeah.
Call them more than once.
A lot of those people are on Medicaid. A lot of the people who are calling, a lot of people who supported the current president, voted for the current president. I mean, we've talked about conflicts of interest.
Cutting your nose off to spite your face, huh?
Yeah.
But even if you were misled, I can guarantee you the cuts that are about to come.
This is your redemption tour.
Yeah.
In addition to calling your senators, there are lots of ways that you can get involved with local organizations who are advocating for people who will be most impacted by some of the horrible provisions if they go through. So community is essential, as we keep saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, find your community, find those people who are like-minded and who you can bond together to advocate and make change.
Yeah.
And right now we're changing. It feels like things are so bad. It's like, can we just go back to like last year? It's like, I mean, it was bad, but it was bad.
I don't think I ever thought I'd see that they'd be like, where's George Bush at? Can we get him back?
Oh gosh.
He's somewhere painting.
Him and
Probably.
Michelle. Him
Texting.
and Mish. Oh, texting Mish.
Yeah. Giggling in the corner.
When are you going to invite me on your podcast?
Yeah.
All right. Well, cheers. Feel better, Jen.
Yes.
Jen will be back next week. Don't worry.
Yes. She'll be back at full voice, full health.
Pull up a chair. Since the political board, 'cause we gonna need a drink for this.